Croeso. Welcome, very warm welcome in fact, to those of you here in Cardiff and to the thousands of you online. It is my honour and pleasure to welcome the Froebel Trust to Wales for our very first Froebel Lecture and to thank our guest speaker, Professor Tina Bruce CBE, for making the journey to be here tonight. Tina is a world-renowned Froebelian working tirelessly to inspire and challenge leaders and practitioners to provide experiences and environments that foster play and creativity. We're very fortunate that Tina and the Froebel Trust have chosen Wales for the launch. So, why Wales? Why now? Why not? Let me contextualise the position in Wales briefly. We have a curriculum for Wales that places us in a really enviable position of being able to reevaluate our pedagogical choices for young learners. Research tells us that young children learn best through play and play-based experiences. It also tells us that nurturing relationships are critical in the early years for children to gain confidence, to test their thinking in emotionally safe environments. The Welsh Government has published guidance that can help us reframe our pedagogy. Enabling Learning, a curriculum for funded non-maintained nursery settings, and the recently published assessment arrangements, all of which you can use if you're in a school too, I'm just adding. These all place the child at the heart of learning, ensuring that we see each child as an individual on their own unique learning journey. We're not required to measure their progress against benchmark criteria or indeed each other. This is both exciting and challenging, and I know because I've had lots of conversations about that in recent weeks. So, as written in the UNCRC, all children have a right to play and relax. Tina's life's work is focused on young children and their right to a creative, nurturing education. This has enabled her to observe and reflect on the complexity of play, and through her work and study, she has identified 12 features that characterise a Froebelian approach to childhood play. Tonight, she will highlight these features as she introduces her latest publication, Empowering Learning, Play, Symbols and Creativity. Froebelian principles recognise children as autonomous learners. Froebelians offer opportunities for children to engage with nature. They support children to find unity and connectedness through their play and exploration, and they build a strong sense of belonging through nurturing relationships. The Froebelian principles support the ambition of our 4 purposes of Curriculum for Wales: to educate children to be and become creative, ambitious, ethical, and healthy individuals who make positive contributions to society. Our role as early educators is to ensure that children experience the 4 purposes in contexts that are authentic to them. A curriculum for funded non-maintained nursery settings and enabling learning incorporate Froebelian principles. For example, the central importance of play, the role of knowledgeable and nurturing adults, and authentic contexts, indoors and out. In Wales, we refer to these as the 3 enablers: enabling adults, engaging experiences, and effective environments. And I'm sure in whatever part of the world you're in, you will have these 3 enablers, but they'll just be enabled differently, slightly differently. What is clear to me as I continue to learn about taking a Froebelian approach to teaching and learning is how important observation is. Observation requires us to be both knowledgeable and curious about children and their play, to notice and reflect upon how children communicate their understanding and their interests in different ways. Tina will draw on her body of work to illustrate the central importance of observing children to better understand and support them and their development. I hope you have your pens and pads at the ready. There will be an opportunity, as Sasha said at the end, to ask any questions of Tina following her lecture. Please show a very, very warm welcome, warm Welsh welcome, I should say, to Professor Tina Bruce. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.
I am so delighted to be here to talk with you this evening, and I thank Sasha Powell, the Chief Executive of the Froebel Trust, and the Froebel Trust for giving me the opportunity to speak to you here in Wales, in Cardiff, in Peace Hall. Gaynor, I know that there are very exciting developments in the Froebelian work in Wales, and the achievement of you with your team taking the Froebel short courses and the foundation of the Welsh Froebel Network. And you have made links with Dr. Jennifer Clement and Sian Sawar, who are developing the T. Froebel House based at Cardiff Metropolitan University. And this is advocating and offering opportunities for students to explore Froebelian approaches to education as they train to work with children and families. So, as Gaynor says, in this talk, I'm going to introduce the 12th Froebel Trust pamphlet, and it's titled Empowering Young Children, Empowering Learning, Play, Symbols, and Creativity. And the first PowerPoint, no, that's it, thank you. The idea for these pamphlets came from Professor Maurice Craft, who was previously the chair of the Froebel Trust Education Committee. And I feel very honoured to contribute to this very popular series, which is edited by Dr. Jane Reed. Now, I haven't got the possibility to go through this page by page. So what I'm going to do is focus on the importance of play, which I began to ponder and develop from about 1991, a long time ago, and I've been exploring this ever since. And I want to begin by talking about the Network for Learning. Now, the Network for Learning has interdependent, interconnecting features, and one of the most important is first-hand experience. For example, preparing family meals. And making pancakes is something which children love to take part in. Another is helping children to make and find symbols. Symbols. And so here you can see a child who's drawing on stones. And they've used first-hand experience. They've used what they know about a ladybird, and they're making that symbolic by drawing on the stone. This kind of symbolic exploration leads later on to a teenager who's designed a calendar for Christmas as a family gift and has taken photographs of different mini bugs and is planning a calendar that will be a gift for the family. So symbols are very important, and a young child's emerging drawings today, finding, making, and using symbols. Drawing on the blackboard here, this is all going to lead to later creativity. So many ways there are to find, make, and use symbols. Drawing, painting, they're just examples of this. So we have a situation where first-hand experience is crucial. The everyday lives of children, and we can see that from this symbols matter. And something else that's very important is the way that children examine and participate in the games of the cultural rules and contexts that they encounter. So here we have a group of children who are involved in a dance, and they are learning the steps to make the dance. There are rules in a sequence of dance. During babyhood, we are beginning to see the beginnings of play. Often, people don't think of this as play. It becomes more recognizable with the gradual emergence of literal play, which is one step from the real world of their experiences. Another development is the play scenarios that are abstract and transforming with imagination and creativity and alternative worlds. Children thinking, supposing this happened, supposing that, what if things were like this? Imagination. Imagination is the rearrangement, the transformation of past experiences in new and fascinating ways. And all of this is part of this network for learning. Real experiences, finding, making, and using symbols, and the cultural context and its rules and games with a deeper and deeper participation and engagement in those features of play. All of this is how children make sense and meaning of what they learn. A Froebelian approach to play is not always agreed, but it's supported with an edifice of philosophical and theoretical thinking and a multitude of research. So I'm not going to dwell on this evening because there is a canon of literature, such as the forthcoming Handbook to Froebel, which is to be published in November by Bloomsbury, with 50 authors who are Froebelians from all over the world. And in the pamphlet, there is further reading. So there's a wide variety of academic texts for those wishing to deepen their understanding and to study in more detail the importance of play and how to encourage, nurture, and develop it. Froebel lived from 1782 to 1852, and his ideas about play fall into the sphere of discovering principles about what it is. What are its purposes? And he addresses the question, actually, in reality, what are we going to do with the children on Monday? He was a very great observer of babies, toddlers and children, and families and those working with other people's children. And seeing them at play over time, he began to realize that play helps children to gather together their learning, to make sense of what they know, and to experiment with ideas, feelings, relationships, and physical prowess, because it creates a safe context to do this. He could also see that children welcome help and support from adults in their play when it is given sensitively, respectfully, and appropriately. Every aspect of the assemblage that is play is interdependent and interconnected. If we have a look here, we can see a toddler going shopping. There's the shopping trolley, and the hedge is all the items on the hedge, which is being picked at. He knows about shopping from his everyday experiences, and he is becoming engaged in literal pretend play, just one step away from reality. He's made his own rules, so he has control. Let the hedge be the shelves. let the wagon be the shopping trolley. So there it is, the network for learning, the features of play that are all there. I'm currently a mentor for the Froebel Partnership, which is funded by the Froebel Trust and led by Sally Cave, who's head of Guildford Nursery School and Family Centre, who invited to work with her and her staff Chris Pascal and Tony Bertram from CREC, the Centre for Research in Early Childhood, with the team Helen Linden and Sue Bennett. And they are ensuring that the conditions conducive to developing the network for learning through an assemblage of play features forms a key part of their data gathering process in the research project. Because play only emerges and flourishes with educational worthwhileness when the conditions for this to occur are present and in place. So we can see the toddler going shopping. Play is helping that child to be in advance of what they can actually do in their real lives, because that toddler can't really go into shops and do shopping. So a little deeper look at first-hand experience. Here we can see a child, again a toddler, picking up stones, putting them in a basket, carrying the basket around, absolutely typical of a toddler. Typical toddler activity. And this toddler is having a first-hand experience of pebbles and putting things in baskets, transporting things about. These are all part of the beginnings of play. But having pebbles, having a basket, being free to move about, they're all made possible by the adult. Somebody gave opportunities for the pebbles. An adult gave opportunities for the basket. An adult ensured the child had freedom of movement safely. Adults matter. Relationships matter. And here we can see a newborn baby. Already the interdependence of the hand-eye mouth is emerging. Already that little hand is going up to touch the mouth. And getting to know yourself, knowing who you are, and also knowing self in relation to others, it matters. The baby and the mother are setting up the conditions for later play. It's part of the assemblage of features that support play. Play, as Froebel found, was a great creator when using the fingers. Finger plays he designed, action songs, which are used in early childhood settings and by families at home. So, finger play like, here's a tree with its leaves so green. Here are the apples that hang between. When the wind blows, the apples will fall. And here is a basket to gather them all. Would you like one? Play is about wallowing in ideas, feelings, and relationships. It helps the process of becoming physically aware of yourself in relation to others and the world beyond. It brings unity and connectedness. And we can see in this photo the importance of relationship. There's companionship here, being together. Babies and children enjoy being with adults who enjoy being with them, and they find it very helpful to their ideas, their feelings, their physical selves. When this occurs, the conditions for playing together are put in place. The features of play are becoming an assemblage. The importance of relationships is part of the assemblage of play, whose features are threaded right the way through this pamphlet. And we can see here the child balancing. It's something that young children love to explore, and they benefit from, and they need help and encouragement in developing their relationship with height and the ground. So here we can see the child balancing on the log, helped by the adult, the beginnings of play. If we go back to the cover, we see the child who's a little bit older than the one in the other photograph, who is confidently playing on roller skates. And all of that was set up earlier. What the child can do playing alone later, the child benefited from playing with the adult earlier on. So adults are helping children to become autonomous players. And here we can see an adult playing in companionship with a child, both enjoying this time together. Being a good companion helps the symbolic pretend play to develop. Let me give an example from my own family. At a family gathering, playing charades, this involved acting out scenes that were improvised. There were goodies, there were baddies, there were police cars, there were robbers and sirens. And this was all followed by an amazing, glorious spoon dance. And everybody was tapping away with spoons all around the room while Spanish Galician music played. And everybody had a holiday in Spain together. Now, these creative improvisations show where play goes from early to middle childhood and right the way on through life. People playing together. Everybody seemed to sense when that play needed to fade, and it just vanishes away, never to be repeated. And one child in that family, in their middle childhood, was listening to music with a song later on, back at home, and felt they wanted to pin down that experience they had had with the family gathering, and wrote. And here you can see the Christmas trees, and they have written, "This song is remembering. We're crossing the bridge and coming to London. The song is terror and magnificence. It's lovely." So play can be in partnership with children, or between an adult and child, or it could be in a group with or without an adult joining in. Adults need to be very careful not to invade, overwhelm, or extinguish the children's possibilities for free-flow play. Froebel talks about the need for freedom with guidance, which is very delicately balanced and alters moment by moment as the play flows along. Here we can see children playing with a farm. Older children are introducing a younger child to this play. All these children have visited a farm, and the play props here are encouraging the literal play, acting out farm scenes quite realistically. And we often see toddlers observing play of older children, working out what it involves. And here, the children almost seem to have a sense that they need to keep that play fairly real, fairly literal, in order to keep the attention of the younger child. This literal play contrasts with the abstract play scenario, and this is developing when another group of children, they have also visited a farm, but they are using cushions for the horses. They're using pipe cleaners for the hay. They've put coats over the cushions to be the saddles, and they've made stirrups, tying weights to bits of string. Literal play has now become play scenarios which are nearer to reality and typically occur earliest in the symbolic play. Abstract imaginative play scenarios require more transformative creative processing. Now, play can be solitary, and when solitary play is in evidence, it gives personal space in a very busy world, supporting contemplation and well-being. It gives strength to deal with life's events and to feel a sense of agency. You have complete control when you are the one playing. Having a sense of being in control, having autonomy, is very important for mental health. So children here, playing on their own, toddler again, this child doesn't need to be with an adult joining the play because the play is in flow. He's playing with an idea, finding spaces into which he can exactly fit. Can he fit in a drawer? Can he fit on a shelf? I should perhaps mention this family is moving house. The adult does need to keep observant just in case he tries to fit himself somewhere that is not safe. Toddlers can be difficult in that way. There's nothing to show at the end of a play scenario like this. When the play ends, the play fades away, never to be exactly replicated, because play has no end product. Here you have a child who's, again, engaged in solitary play. He's making a play scenario with animals that become very fierce characters. This child's visited a zoo. He's seen animals in David Attenborough films, and so the characters are sort of real, but he's also transforming them in his imaginative play. So play here is about creating possible, alternative, imagined worlds. And these can lift children from real and literal situations to ever deeper kinds of imagining and creating ideas. The symbolic life of the child uses life experiences in increasingly abstract and transformed ways in the play scenarios. And we can see here in this pumpkin play, it's the right time of year for that in the UK, where people are celebrating with pumpkins. Play props here have been made with the adult helping. The adult has followed the instructions of the child, and that's a very good way not to interfere with the child's ideas. The child has taken over when it comes to the paper folding furniture, and the child has taken over choosing the dolls and the characters, and the child has taken over in developing the narrative and the story flow, and then gradually the play fades and is never to be repeated exactly the same again. That's the power of play. It can't be pinned down. Play is a process with no products. It's different from a symbolic representation, which does pin down an experience. So we find here, we've got on one side a picture of a flock of rooks and a bird table, and on the other side a drawing of a horse and cart following rides in a park. These are experiences which are not about play, they are symbolic representations which pin down an experience. And if we have another think about the rules that I talked about, this network of play features that form an assemblage, play enables children to experiment with the rules that they encounter in their culture. Making and breaking and keeping rules, it's all explored during play scenarios. There will be goodies, there will be baddies, there will be children who rescue or chase. And here we can see that in scenes of death and escape from evil, here you've got a narrative story developing where a brave knight is being rescued by a wizard with a magic charm. I have to say, when I see these play scenarios developing, it brings back very fond memories of an Erasmus project that I was invited to join by Professor Milda Bredekite at the University of Vilnius, with participants from Finland and Lithuania, Poland and England, which was a wonderful opportunity to explore, share, exchange our different understandings of narrative play. Wonderful learning experience for everybody involved. So we can see that play can be initiated. It can be initiated by a baby or a child or an adult. But if adults play with children, they do need to remember their play agenda is no more important than that of any of the other players. Free flow play is really a bit like a conversation or dancing together, with everybody listening and tuning in to the other. And there's often a lot of experimentation in those kinds of adventure together. So here we can see experimentation with social rules and courtesy and kindness. Do not go in here. Very clear message. Not very courteous. Not, as my grandmother would say, as courtesy, that is to do and say the kindest thing in the kindest way. But that's what play does. It allows you to explore why you need kindness and courtesy, because you get to know what it feels like when it isn't there. Often, children become their own play props. We saw this when we saw the child fitting himself into shelves and drawers during the house move. And here we can see the child using her dress and her own body to swirl and twirl joyously as the music plays. Children will find play props which they then put to good use, often symbolic use. And here we can see a child who finds a bit of discarded bird's nest on a path and begins to make their own bird's nest using bits of grass and twigs. And this becomes part of a play scenario. So find a prop, the bit of bird's egg, make a prop, gather your bits of grass and twigs and make your nest, and use the prop. Create a bird play scenario as a result. Children also use props that they find which we provide. And wooden blocks are a very important part of Froebel's legacy to us. And we have modern form of these, which are invaluable and last for many years. I know settings where people have had their blocks for a long time. As they play, children show their technical prowess and their competence that they have developed. They're confident in their control. Play helps adults to realize what children already know and have been learning, what they can do and feel and understand. So here you have a boy building with his blocks. In their play, children often demonstrate knowledge, socially skilled knowledge, how to become good leaders, how to be good team workers, and they do also reveal things they know about mathematics and communication, language, literacy, history, their culture. So many things. It's broad, it's deep. Finding props and also making props are very important aspects of symbol use. And here we see a beautiful laptop computer has been made. It's a symbolic representation, but it becomes a play prop in a free-flowing play scenario. And here, child has made a symbolic play prop, and it's telling other people in the play that the shop's now closed. This is socially skilled playing because everybody in the group needs to know where we're at in the story, in the narrative, so that the play scenario doesn't disintegrate. So we can see play does not just happen. Children need adults who will observe, support, and extend their learning. Observation really matters in educating children because it enables children and adults to be tuned in to each other, to look at what children can do instead of focusing on what they can't yet do, and spending time and effort trying to make them do it. Children do their best thinking and learning in a nurturing atmosphere, and with relationships being a very key part of this. Play helps children to know themselves and to be comfortable about who they are. And it opens up their possibilities to learn about their ideas, their thoughts, their feelings, and their relationships. Through the features forming an assemblage of play, children use and reflect on their life experiences, and they transform these from the literal and reality into creative, more abstract, imaginative play scenarios or symbols. Because play is an integrating mechanism, and it's made up of interconnected, interdependent assemblages. It brings together and it orchestrates everything the child's been learning and knows, understands, feels physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's rooted in real experience that it processes, experiments with, gets life under control. It brings an intellectual life that is self-aware, connected to others, and the community and world beyond. So early childhood education is a resource for life, transforming past experiences into the present and into the future. It's worthwhile in educating babies, toddlers, and young children to be empowered, learning through play, symbols, and creativity. And I will give the last word to Frederick Froebel, the pioneer of educational play. Make the internal external and the external internal to find the unity for both. Thank you.
Tina, thank you very much for inspiring us, as always. I was thinking what a very creative, symbolic process writing a pamphlet is. I think you'd probably use other words to describe it sometimes as well. And those others of you who've written our pamphlets will know that sometimes it's a little bit tricky. But we really appreciate not only the wonderful pamphlet you've written, but also this amazing exploration of that pamphlet that you've shared with us this evening. Thank you very much. We're going to move to comments and questions at this point, and my colleagues will be coming round. I think Oksana's got a microphone there, and Victoria's got a microphone here. So they're going to come around, and what we'll do is we'll take a couple of questions at a time. If you'd like to make a comment or offer a question, could I ask you please to tell us your name and where you're from, please, because then Tina can respond accordingly. And so we'll take one or two questions, and then I'm going to ask Tina to pick up on those in a moment. Thank you. Would you like to raise your hand if you have a question or a comment? We have one at the front here. Thank you.
I would like to ask about adults really who haven't had that experience of play. And I'm thinking about, the both practitioners and parents, and I suppose how we can help parents and practitioners to understand that importance.
Thanks very much, Jane. I don't know if everybody will have heard that question, so I'll just summarise it if I may, and please do pop your hand up if you'd also like to ask a question, and my colleagues will come around. So Jane was asking how can we help adults, whether they are parents or practitioners, who may not have had play experiences or rich play experiences themselves. What Tina might recommend about that. Do we have another question that I can take at this point? If not, I'll invite Tina to respond to that. Okay, I'm going to go straight to Tina. I think we're supposed to sit in the chair, so
I don't mind standing up.
Would you rather come and stand?
It's probably easier,
Probably
isn't
easier,
it?
yes, if we stand.
Yes.
We can be, you can be seen better.
This is such an important aspect of what we are wanting to do, isn't it? Some time ago, we were very fortunate and had a research nursery school at the Froebel Institute, and a marvellous person, Chris Athey, was the research fellow. And I was very fortunate to be appointed to be the teacher in the school. And we spent a great deal of energy. I mean, she was passionate about how we could work with parents. And so we had pretty much an open house for parents to come into the classroom with us and be in the garden with us. And we used to try and just explain what we were, what had just happened. You know, we would say, "Gosh, wasn't that interesting? Did you see how your little one responded to that?" So some of those examples that I was giving, if you were the little toddler who had the wagon and was, picking leaves off the hedge, and the shopping, you know, just have a talk about, do you go shopping? And isn't that interesting, you know, that he's trying to show us how he's enjoyed that experience with you. And just having those conversations where you actually bring out into the open what's happening. You're actually talking about the first-hand experience that he had. You're actually talking about how the child is beginning to move into pretend play. And to be excited about that, I found those moments very helpful. And it's a bit daunting if you've not been used to having sort of parents coming around and watching what you're doing. But it's, I think, a very important part of our professional practice that we are relaxed with the parents and we share the things with them that we find exciting. But it does mean, one of the things about being a knowledgeable and nurturing educator is that we have to be trained enough to be able to articulate that analysis ourselves. So we're not telling parents what to do, we're analysing what that child did that has excited us about their play. Because every child is exciting, aren't they? They're always exciting to be with. So you're not telling parents what to do. And I always get worried when I hear people talk about what we need to do is teach the parents. That's not what I think we should be doing at all. We should be showing parents what we see as exciting about their child learning. And Chris Athy always used to say to me, even when you think, you know, that there's very little to show, there will be something that you find exciting. And it's your job as a professional to seek it out, find it, and work with it. And actually, it's a great pleasure to work with parents then. I remember what one parent saying to me, you know, when we'd just, you know, been making mud pies and all the sort of things you do in the garden, and she just turned and she said, "You're never satisfied, are you? You're always looking for what they've just done that's better than what they did yesterday." And I say, yes, because I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. You know, that's what we want to do, helping children to learn. And you must have been doing something at home, because it's not just me that made that happen. You must have made it happen too. So you're helping the parents along. I can get quite passionate about this. Thank you for that question, Jane.
Thank you, Tina. Yes, thanks. That was a great question, Jane. Would anybody else like to ask Tina a question? Oh, lots now. Good to see. Perhaps we could come. No, sorry. Would you like to? Would you
No, I don't need to.
Good.
I think okay.
And then we'll come to you in a minute.
From Cardiff Met University. You talked a little bit about assemblages and the messiness, I suppose, of play, but you talked a lot about the props that support that. And I was just wondering if you had a series of the best props that you would draw upon for play, what they might be.
Come to the best props. Yeah. Shall we take another question first?
And I'll write them down. Will you write them down?
I will write them down. Yes, thank you. Did everybody hear that question that Jenny asked? Good, okay. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Fatima. And we might just take one more, because I remember there being a hand at the back. Yes, right at the back. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name, but I think you said you were from Early Years Wales? Thank you. Okay, so Tina, we've got 3 questions. You might want to amalgamate them. Jenny's question was about the best props, and then Fatima's question was around, I think maybe you're talking about children's own perceptions of what constitutes play, because you were talking about if a child is crying in play. Yeah, there's that. Really okay, so our interpretations, and again, perhaps with and alongside children's own interpretations of play. And then, is there one thing you would pass on to inspire educators about play over and above anything else?
Right. Well, I suppose, you know, if I take the third question first, I mean, I did talk quite a lot about first-hand experience, and the richer the first-hand experiences, the richer the possibilities are for imagination, which you can rearrange those experiences and turn them into the most wonderful possible alternative imagined worlds. So children who lack rich first-hand experiences are at a disadvantage in terms of developing their play. So I suppose that would be something I would really want to hand on, and it's sort of to do with setting up the conditions for rich play. I don't think I really understand with the playing. I mean, yes, children often pretend to cry in their play, and that's all part of you know, exploring ideas, feelings, relationships, and so I would see that as perfectly normal part of play. When children are really crying, then they're not in a state where they're able to play, and so I would be sad about that, and I would be looking at trying to help them not to feel so distressed. You know, I hope that I wouldn't have children crying too much in the nursery, but children pretending to play, to cry in their play is perfectly normal and absolutely fine. And the marvellous thing about play is that you can escape from it if you don't want to be in it, or you can come into it if you want to come into it. And one of the things about children who are very good at being leaders in play is that they will help children into the play. Just as you saw in that farm scene, the little toddler was being helped into the play by children who were able to lead the play. And you often find this, that you find another child will be very caring and loving towards a child that is pretending to cry. But if a child actually becomes a bit distressed in the play and they realise they don't like it. I mean, I can remember when I was about 4, playing with some children, and one of them suddenly decided, you know, in the play that, you know, there was goodies and baddies and all sorts of things, and I was thoroughly enjoying it. And then suddenly, this child got a skipping up and started sort of tying me to a tree, and I didn't like that. So I struggled free and I left. You know, marvellous, you can do that, you see. So I'm not worried about children crying. And, well, my favourite things, I mean, I just think the non-cost things, the mud, the sand, the earth, you know, you saw using the hedge, picking up grass, finding bits of bird's egg. I mean, the marvellous thing about play is it doesn't cost money. And when you look at children all over the world, this is what they're doing. So play doesn't cost money. Now, obviously, we can also, if we can manage it, enhance with props. And I think, you know, I would have a beautiful set of wooden blocks that, you know, I work on a project in South Africa. We've been doing it for about 20 years. There are 2 things that we actually spend money on. One is wooden blocks, and the other is multilingual, you know, beautiful books in the African languages that are in that setting, as well as in English, so that children, they need English because it goes right through their school system, but we want to also give them their own mother tongue languages. So those two things I spend money, but quite honestly, Jenny, I would, all the rest, it's all there. If you scrap materials, anything that doesn't cost money, fantastic play props. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tina, for answering all three questions in one fell swoop. That was brilliant. We've got just a couple of minutes left, so please do. Yes, we've got one question here. Anybody else would like to ask a question or comment before we close? We've got one here in the second row, Victoria, from Sian.
Hi there, my name's Sian Sarwar, Cardiff Metropolitan University. Hi Tina. You made reference to both play and learning, and I sometimes think that this can bring about tensions in relation to the expectations of adults. So I wondered if you could perhaps share your views on how to navigate this kind of tension.
So Sian from Cardiff Met was asking how to navigate the tension between using, is it the vocabulary of talking about play and learning that you're talking about? Okay, that we talk sometimes about play, sometimes about learning, sometimes about play and learning, and that can create tension sometimes. And how would you respond to that, Tina? Or navigate it, I think was the word Sian used.
I think it needs navigation to say. I mean, one of the things we used to do was actually show parents where it starts to go. I gave you a couple of examples with the calendar and with the remembering back to the Christmas family gathering and the lovely piece of writing, the beautiful drawing that the child had done. If you have sort of little exhibitions in the entrance hall of, show the ladybird on the stone and the child drawing on the blackboard, and then, here's a calendar. So that the parents get that very clear route, and then the child with the fierce animals. You've got the child's creating a story, so you've got characters, you've got the narrative. And then, when you look at bits of research like that longitudinal study in the Nordic countries with Ragnar Skottdottir, who looked at 3-year-olds in their pretend play, looked at children's creative writing at 9, and found that children who had been engaged in very rich pretend play were actually able to negotiate creative writing so that they could say, before Mrs. Bloggs did this, she did that, but after that, and they could swing about and really create a story in quite a sophisticated way. That did not show at 7. So it was quite a long-term benefit, but it was quite clear. So I think I have found that a very good way of navigating, and also just showing, your child's done some beautiful writing today. That's really giving haven't seen them do a phrase like that before. Shop is closed. And that happens, when children are playing, they show us the things that they know. I find that kind of conversation is very useful. And when people say something like, yes, but my child knows the alphabet, and you say, yes, so we need to do the other 36 things which lead children to be good at literacy. And actually, that's one that you've talked about, but actually, look, let's have a look. We've got 12 here this morning, just in that piece of play. And I do find that it does register, Yeah, and then they'll start to say, so what are the other 12? And you say, well, look, let's have a look at the profile, because let's go through and see what your child's been doing this last month, and maybe we'll find some. Yeah, it gets very exciting. Yeah. Was that the, yeah?
Marvellous, yes. As always, thank you, Tina. We are pretty much out of time for this part of the evening. Those of you who are with us here in Cardiff can carry on the conversation, and those of you online may be speaking on the chat. Here's a copy of this wonderful pamphlet that Tina has written, which if you'd like to get a hard copy of, you can do so at the back, but they're also available to download from the website. I want to say on behalf of all of us here, a huge thank you to you, Tina. It's wonderful to be here with you in Wales, and I'd like to thank Gaynor and all our Welsh colleagues here tonight for welcoming us to Wales. It's been fantastic to come here. We hope to come back many times. And to everyone who's joined us online, I'd like to thank you too, not only for joining us, but for your perseverance. I understand there have been some technical issues online. But for now, please will you thank Professor Tina Bruce, for her wonderful annual lecture. Thank you, Tina.